Hey everyone, let's go ahead and start looking at the 8-3 worksheet all about the law of sines. So in this first problem, Kimberly is asked to find the measure of angle M. So she decides that she's going to use the law of sines, and she is saying that the sine of angle M over its opposite 16 is equal to the sine of angle L over 10. Okay? So then what she did was she multiplied everything by 16. So the sine of M is 16 times the sine of 33 over 10. And that means that she said the measure of angle M is 0.8714. But the problem is the sine of M is 0.8714. Using this equation doesn't give you the angle, it just gives you the sine of the angle. You would then have to use the inverse sine of both sides to find the angle M. So what we can say is the sine of angle M is 0.87. The sine of angle M is 0.87. To find angle M, do the inverse sine of 0.87 or 0.8714, which will be 60.6 degrees roughly. There we go. Number 14, suppose you only know the lengths and the angle measures of two triangles, used to show that they are congruent by side angle side. Can you find the missing angle measures and side lengths of the triangles using the law of sines? Well, if we knew this angle, this side, as well as the other two pairs of congruent sides, we need to know a side angle pair in order to use the law of sines. We need to know either angle B and its opposite side, angle A and its opposite side, or angle C and its opposite side. And since we don't have any of the side angle pairs, we're not able to use the law of sines there. So we can say no, because you don't know any angle / opposite side pairs. Number 17, explain how to use the law of sines to find the perimeter of triangle PQR, then write an expression for the perimeter. So since we do have an angle side pair here, we can use the law of sines to find the answer here. So let's see. Let's start by finding what we can. If I have this angle side pair, and I know 42, I can find side QR. So I can write the sine of 37 over its opposite side, 9, is equal to the sine of 42 over its opposite side. We'll call that x for now. Then we can multiply both sides, cross multiplication. 9 sine 42 equals the sine of 37 times x, or x sine 37. And then we can divide both sides by the sine of 37, so we get x on its own. Over here, divide by the sine of 37, and we find that x is equal to 9 sine 42 over sine of 37 is around 10. The next thing we need to do is find PR. So when we find PR, we need to know angle Q. Luckily, we can find out angle Q because it's going to be 180 minus 42 minus 37, which gives us angle Q is 101 degrees. So we can use the law of sines and the angle side pair we know with 37 degrees and 9 to find the other missing side PR. So you can write the sine of 37 over 9, we're using that same angle side pair, equals the sine of 101 over x. That side we don't know. And again, cross multiply. 9 sine of 101 equals x sine of 37. Divide both sides by the sine of 37. And that's going to make this x is equal to 9 sine 101 over the sine of 37, which is around 14.68. So 14.68. The question asks us to write an expression for the perimeter. That's 9 plus 10 plus 14.68. So altogether, that is 33.68 units. All right, on to the next column. Lots of law of sines here. We're using angle side pairs to find laws of sines. So we've got the sine of 57 over 13 equals the sine of 22 over x. Cross multiply those. We would get 13 sine of 22 equals x sine of 57, but I'm just going to go ahead and divide both sides by the sine of 57 already. So I'm going to say 13 sine of 22 over the sine of 57 equals x, just because it's less writing. Can take a shortcut there. So x equals 5.81, or if we're rounding to the nearest tenth, 5.8 for x. For the next problem, that wasn't supposed to be an oval, but we'll go with it. For the next problem, again, angle side pair, the sine of 34 over opposite side 26 equals the sine of 70 over x. Then I'm going to use cross multiplication, and I will get 26 sine of 70 equals x times the sine of 34. I'll divide both sides by the sine of 34, so divided by the sine of 34 over here. And when I put that all together, I get x equals 43.7. All right. Number 20, angle side pair. The sine of 125 over 9 is equal to the sine of, we're missing an angle here because we need the angle that's right here in order to do the problem. So we'll do 180 minus 125 minus 32, and we'll find that that last missing angle is 23. So the sine of 23 over its opposite side of x. Cross multiply, 9 sine of 23 over the sine of 125. I'm just doing this all as one step, equals x. And so when you solve that, you get 4.3 equals x. Perfect. And last, we've got an angle side pair here. The sine of 31 over 9 is equal to, and again, we need to find that missing third angle in order to get another side angle pair. So 180 minus 31 minus 66 gives me 83. So we've got the sine of 83 over x. Cross multiply. 9 sine 83. Divide both sides by the sine of 31. Sine of 31 equals x. And when we find out what that is, it should be around 17.3. Perfect. There's a lot of problems on this worksheet, folks. Next, find each angle measure. So we've got angle side pairs, but we're finding the angle measure this time. So we've got the sine of 68 over 22, that angle side pair, is equal to the sine of x, we don't know that angle, over 16. Cross multiplying gives us 16 sine of 68 equals 22 sine of x. I'm just going to write it as divided both sides by 22 already. So divide both sides by 22 and we just get x. That would be the way our cross multiplication will go here. Then it won't just be x. It'll be the sine of x. I'm sorry. It's equal to the sine of x. But in order to get rid of the sine of x, I need to take the inverse sine of both sides. So take the inverse sine of both sides. The inverse sine of 16 sine 68 over 22 is 42.4. The inverse sine of x is x. So that is around 42.4 degrees. Right? Next one, our angle side pair. The sine of 122 over 27 is equal to the sine of x degrees over 10. Set it up exactly the same. Cross multiply. 10 sine of 122 equals 27 sine of x. Divide both sides by 27, so we don't have to write it again. So that's going to be equal to the sine of x. And then, of course, I need to take the inverse sine of both sides of the equation. The inverse sine of 10 sine 122 over 27 is around 18.3. The inverse sine of the sine of x is angle x. So around 18.3 degrees. Number 26, angle side pair. The sine of 34 over 6 is equal to the sine of x over 9. And then we will cross multiply. 9 sine 34, you get the idea. Divide it by 6, and we get sine of x over here. Take the inverse sine of both sides, and we end up with 57 degrees is equal to angle x. And lastly here, the sine of 20 degrees over the side length of 11 is equal to the sine of x over 19. Cross multiply. 19 sine of 20 over 11. I guess we're really just multiplying both sides by 19 instead of cross multiplying and going back one, equals the sine of x. Do the inverse sine of both sides, and we end up knowing that 36.2 is the degree measure of angle x. All right, number 30 and 31, find the perimeter of each triangle, round to the nearest tenth. So we've got kind of a little bit to do in these problems because we've got lots of sides to solve for. First of all, let's find the third angle in this triangle because we will need it. So 180 minus 45 minus 65 is 70 for that missing angle. That gives me an angle side pair. I'm going to call these sides x and y so that I can use them easily enough. Actually, I'm going to call them y and x because that's the way it is on my other answer key. So what I can do here is use the angle side pair of 26 and 70 degrees. The sine of 70 over 26 is equal to the sine of one of these other angles, 45, for example, over its opposite side, x. Cross multiply, and then divide both sides by the sine of 70. I am going to get 26 sine of 45 over the sine of 70 equals x. And that tells me that 19.5 equals x. Then I need to do the same thing for side y. So I'll use the same angle side pair. The sine of 70 over 26 equals the sine of, in this case, 65 over y. Cross multiply and get 26 sine of 65 over the sine of 70 equals y, and I find out that y is 25.08. So if I'm finding the perimeter of this, I kind of ran myself out of room here. I'm going to take 26, the original, plus 19.5 plus 25.08 and find that my perimeter is 70.68 degrees. All right, same thing to do on the other problem. I need to find my third angle, which is 70 again. And I'll use my angle side pairs. I have that 19. So the sine of 72 over 19 is equal to the sine of any of these other ones. Again, I'll find x and y here. So the sine of 38 over x, that is going to be 19 sine of 38 over the sine of 72 equals x. And if we solve that, we get 12.3. Then we're going to do the same thing to find y. We'll use the sine of 72 over 19 again. Over 19 is equal to the sine of 70 over its opposite side, y. Cross multiply. 19 sine 70 is over the sine of 72 equals y. And that is going to be 18.77. Add together my side lengths, 19 plus 12.3 plus 18.77 gives us 50.01. So 50.01 is your answer there. Number 34. To find the height of a tree, a forester uses a clinometer to measure the angle to the top of the tree. She then measures again at a distance of 8 feet farther away. What is the height of the tree round to the nearest foot? So we've got some pieces of information here. Like, we know they're standing 8 feet apart. We could move that angle measure up. We know that there is a 47-degree angle between this person's eyes and the horizon, which means that there's 180 minus 47, or a 133-degree angle on the other side. And what else do we know? Do we know anything? Oh, we can find the third angle of this triangle. If we know one of the angles is 133 and one angle is 36, we can do 180 minus 133 minus 36 and find that this third angle is 11 degrees. There we go. And that gives us an angle side pair of the 11-degree angle and the 8-foot side. I can use that to find the height. Well, not the height necessarily yet. I can find one of the sides of this triangle. Doesn't really tell me which side, or it doesn't really matter which side, rather. But I'm just going to go ahead and find this outside line x. So I'll use the angle side pair. The sine of 11 degrees over 8 is equal to the sine of 133 degrees over diagonal slanted side x. Cross multiply and solve that. Let's see. This is a long video. 8 sine of 133 over sine of 11 equals x. And then I will solve that. So I get 30.66 equals x. So now I know that this distance is 30.66. I'm going to start looking at the tree that comes from this measurement right here. So the straight up and down, because I'm trying to find the height of the tree. So let's see. I know that the sine, I can use regular right triangle trigonometry here because I have a right triangle that's being created by the tree and the horizon here. So instead of using the law of sines, I'm just going to use regular right triangle trigonometry. If I'm standing on this 36-degree angle, the height of the tree is x, and so that's the opposite is x. The hypotenuse is 30.66. I'm going to make a sine equation. The sine of 36 degrees is equal to opposite x over hypotenuse 30.66 of that right triangle. So then I can just say, all right, 30.66 sine of 36 is equal to x, and that is going to be 18.02. So the height here is 18.02. But of course, this person is standing 5 feet off the ground. So there's another 5 there. We add those together and we get 23 feet. Two more. What is the value of x round to the nearest tenth? Here we can use the third angle in this triangle, which is going to be 100, since 30 plus 50 is 80. And I can have an angle side pair. So the sine of 100 over 9 is equal to the sine of 30 degrees over its opposite side, x. And then cross multiply, 9 sine of 30, divide both sides by sine of 100. 100 equals x, which means x is 4.6 if we're rounding to the nearest tenth. And the last problem, what is the measure of the angle made by the roads at Bigville? Well, Bigville is right there, we can see it. We're looking at the angle measure. We have an angle side pair at Allentown. So the sine of 68.22 over 189 is equal to the sine of the angle we don't know at Bigville, x, over its opposite side, 155. Cross multiply, 155 sine of 68.22 over 189. It's going to be equal to the sine of x, not x yet. We still need to take the inverse sine of both sides. So that's going to be the inverse sine of 155 sine 68.22 over 189 is 49.6. The inverse sine of the sine of x is angle x. So C will be the answer choice there. Lots to see and do in this section, but if you've got any questions, make sure you let me know. Thank you and have